All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, Dan Graziano of ESPN was on TV earlier this morning, and he said that he thinks that Robert Saleh's seat is actually a lot hotter than what a lot of people believe it to be, right? If you kind of look at the mainstream idea, right, or the mainstream, I guess, narrative, the most popular belief as of right now, it's that Saleh's coming back for next season. Despite the shortcomings, despite the losses, despite not only just being eliminated from the playoffs 3 weeks before the season ends, but also that the Jets will be finishing, even if we win out, the Jets will still finish beneath 500. It's infuriating. As a fan, it is infuriating and it drives me crazy. The fact that we have younger teams with less talent, less draft picks, less free agents, doing more bothers me big time. There's a real lack of accountability within the Jets organization, and it's not just on Saleh, it's on Joe Douglas. I mean, he hasn't even met with the media to explain any of the lack of decisions that he's made as general manager of this football team. I want to hear an explanation on why we didn't add any help on the offensive line when guys are constantly going down. We're constantly seeing Zach Wilson or Trevor Siemian or Tim Boyle getting rushed like crazy. The Jets don't even have, Breece Hall is putting up disappointing numbers. Dalvin Cook is putting up disappointing numbers. Dalvin Cook, I believe, has 214 rushing yards on the season, no touchdowns. Joe Douglas brought him in on a 1-year, $7 million deal. Breece Hall, 697 rushing yards. Michael Carter, when he was here, 71 rushing yards. Izzy Abadaconda, 18 rushing yards. Two rushing touchdowns from running backs this season. We can't run the ball, but I digress. I want to hear Douglas's explanation for why nothing was being done. Why wasn't anything done with quarterback, right? Graziano, of course, goes on to point out that the Cincinnati Bengals are having success with Jake Browning, right? They lose Joe Burrow, a top quarterback in football. They didn't, punt on the season. They didn't, freak out and mail it in. I apologize about the beeping. But basically, they quickly pivoted. They found an answer in Jake Browning, and they're winning football games. He also brings up Kevin Stefanski on QB number 4. QB number 4. Deshaun Watson, DTR, PJ Walker, and now ex-Jet Joe Flacco, who was out there this entire time. And the Cleveland Browns have 9 wins, and they're in the playoff picture. So, and it does not end there. Those are the 2 teams that he mentioned, but we can talk about, the Indianapolis Colts. This is a team that I think it's probably more frustrating talking about the Colts, to be honest, because the Colts had the 4th pick in the draft and started this season out starting a rookie in Anthony Richardson with a rookie head coach in Shane Steichen coming over from Philly. The Indianapolis Colts, a younger team than the Jets, a team that is young and rebuilding with a rookie head coach, have 8 wins on the season. The Jets have to win out to get to 8 wins on the season. DeMeco Ryans, rookie head coach, rolling with a rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud. They are racking up wins this season. C.J. Stroud doesn't play. Oh, is it going to be Davis Mills, Case Keenum? They found a way. So you look at where the Jets are at right now. It's objectively disappointing. It's objectively frustrating. It drives me up a wall. So anyway, the point is, Graziano is saying that he believes that the seat might be a little bit hotter than what the mainstream kind of is talking about right now, which is that he's going to be back, no questions asked. I agree. I don't have any sources or anything like that, but if I had to guess, I think I'm seeing what Graziano is saying, and I agree with it. I just don't know how. It's one thing to lose football games, but the Jets are not just losing football games. We were getting blown out of football games, 30-0, losing to a division rival to not only get eliminated from the playoffs, but we're playing a team that we just game planned for a couple weeks ago on Black Friday, and we look worse. Not to mention the Dolphins don't have Tyreek Hill. They don't have Xavier Howard. They don't have Holland. They have their own issues on their offensive line. They come out with a plan. They have an identity. They have a vision. They roll 30-0. Then it gets worse. After the game, Alan Lazard's comments. They outcoached us. Or sorry, that wasn't what it was. They out-schemed us. They out-efforted us. Garrett Wilson's comments, looking inward, trying to take as much blame as possible. I got to do more. I got to practice faster. This is frustrating, right? Sauce Gardner, extremely disappointed that the team is going to be missing the playoffs. Again, DJ Reed's comments, right? It's really tough to get motivated when you know your team is not going to be making the playoffs. But we're still going to go out there and try, right? And then Saleh's comments. So sometimes you have a good game plan, sometimes you don't. Does that instill confidence in your players? No. You're basically saying we're guessing. We don't really have a plan. We're hopeful that it works, but we're not certain that it works. And to me, Andy Reid is certain about his game plans. John Harbaugh is certain about his game plans. Mike McDaniel is certain about his game plans. Zach Taylor, Kevin Stefanski. There's a lot of good coaches in the AFC. I mean, we can talk about D'Amico Ryans. We can talk about Shane Steichen. We can talk about one of my favorite coaches, probably my favorite coach in football, Mike Vrabel. I love him because he's old school, right? Defensive mindset first, aggressive, confuse the quarterback, make his life hell, run the football, build through the trenches, inside out. I would take Vrabel. I think Vrabel is I feel comfortable with a Mike Vrabel game plan over Hackett and Saleh at this point in time, despite the Titans' record. So, only time will tell. But man, if we lose out or we go like 1-2, I could see the Jets making a move. I am not 100% sold that he's just going to be back. I think Woody could get fed up. And also, macro perspective, the Jets didn't win a game in November. We were on a 5-game losing streak. Not to mention, they ended the season last year on a 6-game losing streak. They had some big must-win games, and they laid an egg against the Jags, against the Seahawks to end the season. Embarrassing stuff. Embarrassing stuff. So now this season, again, let's just assume we'll beat Washington and, maybe drop the last two, or I mean, who knows? Maybe we win out. Maybe it's 2-1, 1-2. Maybe it's winless, right? Maybe the team just completely packs it in. At that point, we have our answer. I just don't see how you can come back from that. As far as winning back a locker room goes, that's extremely difficult. I'm actually in the middle of uploading the podcast with Tyson, and one of the points that we were talking about last night was teams not settling. And one point that we were making, one team that we were talking about was the Buffalo Bills. They had a top 10 offense with Ken Dorsey running the show, calling plays. And Sean McDermott looked at the record. They looked at the amount of turnovers. They looked at the amount of issues, despite the points, despite the yards, despite everything being in the top, literally the top 10 of the National Football League. He said, no, we can do better. We aren't playing to our potential. We can exceed these limits. And they fired Ken Dorsey. And the whole world, fans, media, Buffalo Bills are idiots. What are they doing? Ken Dorsey's a young up-and-coming offensive mind. They have a top 10 offense. That's not the problem. This and that. Sean McDermott said, nope, we're not settling. Joe Brady, let's see what you got. And Joe Brady has turned this offense around. Running the football a lot more effectively, really seems committed to the run. Getting James Cook involved. The offensive line, to me, has been playing better. Josh Allen's taking care of the football. You see a change in dynamic, a change in attitude, a change in how a team game plans throughout the week, and then goes out there and not only just executes each individual play, but the play calling is changed as well. So the point was, Sean McDermott, because of this move, won so much respect in that locker room, because the offensive players said, hey, you know what? We could have kept Dorsey. We could have kept the top 10 offense, but we kept turnovers along with that, losses along with that. McDermott said, no, he trusts us more. He values us more. He thinks that we can be better. And you know what? He was right. So now you have this like rubber band effect where things aren't going well. You had the article about Sean McDermott. And then, boom, you make this move with Ken Dorsey. Joe Brady, is really turning things around. And then you have you get the slingshot effect back where the entire locker room is bought back in. Defensive players can now respect that, right? Sean McDermott's not an offensive guy. Is he really sure what he's doing? Yes. Jordan Poyer, right? All these different guys, Dorian Williams, Von Miller, they can now look at McDermott and say, hey, this guy's a head coach. He made a tough decision. A decision that was not popular, but it was for the better of this football team, and it worked. And then you have Garrett Wilson looking across the sidelines against the Miami Dolphins, no Tyreek Hill. And Mike McDaniel roll out a plan saying, okay, you know what? We're going to get Jalen Waddle involved. We're going to target him a lot. They go out there and do that. Garrett Wilson doesn't get a target until the third quarter. And everything is fine. We're not going to make a move with Hackett. So again, when it comes to accountability, when it comes to leadership, I really feel like those are two areas that the Jets completely lack outside of Aaron Rodgers, right? I feel like if Aaron Rodgers was not on the sidelines, it would be all hell breaking loose. It would be complete and utter pandemonium. It's not Aaron Rodgers. I appreciate Aaron, right? But I mean, you look at as far as I feel, it really seems like he has to do everything. He has to be the leader. He has to be there on the sidelines. He has to be out there practicing. And if he's not, it's like, okay, well, there's no leader here. There's nobody to step up and actually command respect. It's only Aaron. Joe Douglas isn't doing it. Saleh isn't doing it. Hackett's not doing it. It's only Rodgers. It really seems like that's who the players kind of gravitate towards. And rightfully so, future first ballot Hall of Famer. But again, National Football League level here, top of the top, cream of the crop, you need, as a head coach, you need to be able to lead a football team. I mean, if you can't do that, that's like half the battle's all over. So, where do the Jets go from here? We're going to see how these final 3 games play out. If the Jets still, continue to come out slow, sluggish, lifeless, flat, we're going to have an issue. We're going to have a big, big issue. And personally, if that's the case, I would make a move. Of course, you can say, well, Saleh's, he can only, in the defense of Saleh, he can only coach what he has. Hey, Aaron Rodgers goes down. I'm looking at the quarterback room. It's Tim Boyle, Zach Wilson. Can we, I would start Andy Dalton if he was here. I would start Marcus Mariota if he was here. I would start Gardner Minshew if he was here. I would start Jameis Winston. I would start Joe Flacco. But they're not here. They're not wearing green and white. Why? Because the general manager didn't do anything. He wasn't proactive whatsoever. He almost doubled down on Zach Wilson, saying, no, he's our guy, after saying the plan was to redshirt him. That makes 0 sense, literally 0 sense. It's a complete contradiction. The plan was to redshirt him, not play all season. But yeah, we're going to gift him the backup quarterback job and not even bring in competition. Same thing on the offensive line. I'm sure Robert Saleh would start Morgan Moses if he had him. I'm sure he would start Nate Herbig if they brought him back, or George Fant if they brought him back. But these moves weren't done. So my issues are not just with Robert Saleh. I have bigger issues with Joe Douglas. But that's just me, though. Not saying I'm right. That's just how I feel, my opinion. I would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. The last thing I want to say, and we actually talked a lot about this at the end of the podcast episode, which should be up relatively soon. If the Jets go out and make a move, they fire Robert Saleh, I think the best option is to get somebody finally in the building who's done it before, who's managed, who's organized, who's stabilized an NFL team before. The Jets right now, from the outside looking in, almost look like a dumpster fire, right? Where you have quarterback question marks, you have the entire offensive line essentially has to be rebuilt. When you talk about 3 starters, both tackle positions, and the entire depth, the backup 5. You need to get more wide receivers. You need to get running back depth after Dalvin Cook leaves, because we're only going to have the 2 on the roster. No more Zonovan Knight, no more Michael Carter, no more Ty Johnson. Those guys are all with other squads. There's a lot of issues here. How do I get Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, ABT, Sauce Gardner, the young guys of this football team to re-buy back in to what the Jets are building here? You have to deal with Rodgers maybe having a say. So I don't know if there's going to be a long list of candidates just waiting outside One Jets Drive ready to interview if they do part ways with Saleh. But I'm also going to say this. As much as I want a veteran head coach that's been there, done that, I also don't want the Jets to fire Saleh just to fire Saleh as a scapegoat. That makes no sense. The only way I'm parting ways with Saleh is if we continue to lose and there is a better, 100% better option out there on the table, and we actually have a plan in place to go out and land him. Because if we don't, and we fire Saleh just to fire Saleh, all of a sudden we're going to be approaching territory like the Carolina Panthers, where it's, we're going to fire the coach, we're going to fire the coach. You know, we're just going to hope to see, we're going to wait and see what savior comes in and, you know, brings the organization back to the playoffs. But candidates these days aren't looking at teams like, oh, this is like a 1 in a million opportunity. They're like, do I really want to tie my name to an organization and potentially get fired 2 years down the road if it doesn't, you know, if it doesn't work out? So we have to have a plan in place, whether it's a Mike McCarthy potentially getting fired in Dallas. I would be open to it. You know, it's early, but it's just a suggestion. I'm a big fan of Marvin Lewis. I know he's not well liked, you know, I understand that, but what he's done in Cincinnati, I always grew up with, you know, before Marvin Lewis, Cincinnati was kind of a mess. And I really don't even need to use the word kind of there. Like, they were a mess. Marvin Lewis came in and stabilized everything. I know the playoff record, this and that, but the point is, we have to have a plan in place if we do decide to part ways with Robert Saleh. Because, you know, you can look at offensive coordinator, right? They fired Mike LaFleur and they didn't have a plan. According to Saleh, there was 11 candidates, 11 or 12 offensive coordinator candidates, and you know, Saleh landed as number one guy in Nathaniel Hackett. But we had Darrell Bevell turn down the OC opportunity. It didn't really seem like that desirable. Like, nobody really wanted to come be the Jets offensive coordinator. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, go Jets.